This lecture would be devoted to the development of a new kind of movement, and that is the new left in the United States of America in the late 1950s and 1960s. So, the very formative background which led to the development of this movement, which would like to discuss. The very development led due to the rising of hipsters and beatniks. So, in regards to that, in the United States, a different kind of movement expressing the same kind of frustration of individual against the tyranny of the mass society, as one could see in the thinking of the existentialist in Europe, grew and continued to move on in quite a different direction for some time. This was the movement represented by the bit generation of young persons, as it was called, the hipsters and the beatniks, in isolated places like the Greenwich Village in New York, the North Beach of San Francisco, and also in Chicago and in Los Angeles, limited to young people. It led to the emergence of a new subculture, as the very subculture was developed. Rejection of industrial society and its many aberrations, irrational responses to the congenital rationalism of that society, individual and communal living, liberation of sexual energies with a natural acceptance of homosexual and bisexual as well as heterosexual behavior. So also description of the traditional values of family, work, flags, religion, and uprightness, Negro jazz and folk music, marijuana, freedom in dress and general appearance were the thought of that young generation. They were the people who just turned their backs upon society, repudiating reason and intellect in favor of sensation. The beatnik was alienated with the Venetians and organized in his alienation with a set of rules, a style of dress, a posture that resulted in conformity to nonconformity, fixed forever in a gross and banal romantic gesture of self alienation, self pity, self confusion, and wordy confusion. They systematically believed in insanity, which for them was the ultimate state of harmony, the condition most in accord with the chaotic world, and the surest way next to death of stuffing time and splintering life into a stream of acutely felt sensations that impose no demands and brings no consciousness of guilt. It was from the hipsters and beatniks that the hippies of a later generation took their origin, belonging to a generation raised in the era of assassination, and in the shadow of nuclear holocaust blotting out all sense of the future. The peace believed that the only journey worth making was inside one's own head, and as their sustenance for journey they took to L.S.D and other drugs. The same social conditions, however, led to another kind of movement among the youth in the United States in the 1960s, ensured by the desperate revolt of the poor and the forsaken Negroes, by moral revulsion towards the life and of the affluence led by the whites, and by aversion to the rationalism of the violence inherent in military force and technical power, a new group which described itself as the New Left came into existence in the 1960s in the United States of America and soon spread to the other countries of the West. Unlike the hipsters and the beatniks, this movement stood for positive social and political goals. It believed in freedom and democracy and was prepared to fight for these ideals. The new left took care to distinguish itself from the old left of the 30s and 40s that developed in the European countries, in as much as while the latter was largely associated with communism, with socialism of various kinds, and to some extent the anarchic syndicalism, the new left was critical both of the bourgeois culture and Marxism. It had its origin in genuine moral feelings and aimed at restoring a position of dignity to the individual society, motivated by a disgust at affluence without dignity, desire for beauty as well as democracy, believe in creativity rather than consensus, wish for community and communal values, and vehement rejection of depersonalized bureaucracy, desire to build a counter society with parallel institutions and not simply to be integrated into and to be accepted by the dominant institutions, hostility to what it conceived of as the dehumanization and alienation of a caste nexus society, preference for individuated, intensely felt, and self generated interpersonal style, including full art, sexual expression, and experimentation. The new left was highly critical of the contemporary American way of life, governed as it was by the laws of functionalism and hierarchical organizations, and attacked also social engineering along with business management and public relations, which were regarded in the liberal society as major instruments for resolving conflicts within the system. So they struggle and pointed out by the leading advocates of the new left of the 1960, they was not against nobility, as in the feudal era, nor against the economic situation, as under the industrial society. They were living in what could be described as the post industrial society, with a complex, diffuse system which imbued every facet of social life and organization. They struggled in that period, and their struggle was neither economic nor political but concerned with the very preservation of man's humanity and individuality in the face of the indivisible, omnipresent dictatorship of forces which tend to integrate and assimilate all elements into the system. The new left believed in what they called participatory democracy. Gradually, the movement took the form of student power and began to regard itself as a movement beyond politics aiming at a social revolution, an effort towards the establishment of a parallel society. It was among all interested in social change than in social order, and they were prepared to risk disorder if this was justified by the higher values to which the new left was committed. So, as regards to that also, we found that the universities, according to the new left movement, in bourgeois societies, it was pointed out, was a service open to government, industry, finance, labor, and national defense for preparing and training personnel qualified to ensure the smooth functioning of a society increasingly subservient to science and technology was administered like other units of production in a managerial spirit and was no longer a place for the needs and desires of students or for the autonomy required by professors. The mechanism held together by administrative rules and fed by money. So the new left is at the 1960s was critical also of Soviet Marxism as of bourgeois democracy and believes that they were both governed by certain common and desirable factors, one of which is identified them as the bureaucratic phenomenon. They pointed out towards the emergence of bureaucratic tendencies on a world scale, the continuous concentration of capital and the increasing intervention of the state in economic and social matters has provided a new managerial class whose fate is no longer bound up with that of the private ownership of the means of production. Some of the writers on the very thinking of the new left movement have interpreted the role of the Bolshevik Party of the then Soviet Union in the light of this bureaucratization. the communist and the Maoist and the rest no less than the capitalist as they were considered by the new left. And as early as in 1904, Rosa Luxemburg had criticized the very concept of all powerful control central apparatus which Lenin had then recommended. The ultra centralization, as Rosa Luxemburg wrote, is filled not with a positive and creative spirit but with the sterile spirit of the night watchman. She had advocated the tearing down of the barbed wire fencing which prevents the Communist Party of Soviet Union from accomplishing the formidable task of the hour. So, the setting of any party, the new left village inevitably reduces freedom of the people to disagree with the party. Democracy is not subserved by bad leadership, but by the very existence of leadership, as according to the new left of the 1960s. And they cannot even exist with the party because the party itself is not a democratic organization, as it was based on authority and not on representation. The new left stood clearly for the individual and his freedom. Too young to have produced a social theory, the leaders of the new left all the same exerted the sharpest possible pressure upon the functionalist theory and its advocates in the academic community in the United States of America in the 1960s induced a number of social critics to move in the direction of evolving more consistent theories of social rebellion. So, in this lecture, we have discussed how the very idea of new left developed in the 1950s and 60s in the United States of America. So, on the very formative backgrounds, how it was developed by the hipsters and the beatniks, and how gradually it spreaded into a philosophical thinking by the young generation of students of universities of United States of America, and in particularly they emphasized on the dignity to individual in society. So they also emphasize on the creativity of the individuality and the community and communal values. And in that response, they were in favor of a counter society with parallel institutions by criticizing the very nature of bureaucratic organizations. So their intention was in particularly preservation of man's humanity and individuality. So as regards to their social and political ideas, the new left emphasized on participatory democracy and also on social change by higher values They also laid emphasis on sex education campaign and also university education. They described as a form of exploitation in bourgeois society as it created the bureaucratization and managerial class. And in late 1904, even Rosa Luxemburg, she was critical of the ultra centralization philosophy of the then Soviet leader Vladimir Lenin, as he emphasized on individual and his freedom. And the same way, the new left also emphasized that individual freedom is the prime importance to them. So they outrightly rejected the single dominant political parties such as the Communist Party in the then Soviet Union, where individual lost his freedom and also his personality. So, in this way, the left, the new left led, and also it left the lasting impact on the development of some social theories which are associated with their thinking, which they ultimately consider as social rebellion. So we have completed our lecture on the new left, the movement, how in the 1950s it was originated by the hipsters and beatniks, but its very political and social philosophical development in the 1960s led by the students of various universities of United States of America who outrightly rejected university education in a bourgeois society which was aiming at creating bureaucratization and managerial class. So we have completed our lecture on the new left, the movement developed in the 1950s and 60s by the young generation of students and youth in United States of America.